you have here, okay, the garage, like, ooh, not food, a percolator, burrito. So we're gonna sit here and chat for a few minutes. I mean, I can breathe. We're gonna sit here and chat for a few minutes, and I'm gonna just fill you guys in on what we're doing today. And I know it's been like, I don't even fucking know, like, okay, so I did a Satisfactory one like a couple of days ago, last week. Before that was Delta V. Yeah, so in the last 2 months I've done what, 2 shop streams? And I keep deleting the VODs because I keep playing copyrighted music. Like, the bit that irritates me is I'm not making any money on this. So why does it even fucking matter? You're not receiving enough video. You're getting 8 megabits. 10 megabits. Yeah, so with all of the deleted VODs for various reasons, copyright and stuff I was doing, so I'm not counting test streams where I was setting up audio and things like that, like on the desktop. I need to go through the laptop and set up filters for the audio on it. I still have not done that. So much shit to do. I keep saying like the past couple of weeks have been like, just can't get my head in the game. It's been like 6 months. It's just infuriating. Honestly. Because I keep like, I'll do a few things here and there, and then I'll get up and my freaking ankle will hurt, and I'm like, well, I'm not going car shit because I'm not going to push the ankle, and then it ends up hurting for 2 weeks instead of 2 days, right? Or I won't get any sleep, and then like I just lay in bed all day because I just can't work up the energy, get up out of bed. Part of it the last month has just been, I've been just sort of loading, waiting for my buddy to send me the money, buy a trailer, and the gas monies to get out of Michigan, which is 3,000 kilometers away. Not exactly, but ish. Total expected trip time is 48 hours total. That's including fuel stops and rest stop, and my expected average speed of 60 kilometers an hour, I think. I don't even know the conversion. My expected average barbarian speed, because I still use speed and barbarian units, is between 45 and 50 mile an hour. So that's going to be fun. And that's trip only speed. That's not including the stops, the rest stop and any emergency stops, any repair stops I have to make along the way, et cetera, which I don't anticipate any of those, but you never know. It happens. Especially in a vehicle such as mine, where, granted, the engine that is in that machine that we will be bringing in here in a few minutes, the engine has approximately 50 or 60,000 miles on it. And when I say 50 or 60,000, I mean the only parts that have more time on them than that is the head, the cylinder head, the crankshaft, the block, and the camshaft, the valve cover. The oil pan is 30,000 miles old. It kept leaking, and I suspected I had the pan that I had was warped. And when I replaced it, I didn't have the facilities to straighten the oil pan, so I just bought another one. The valves are all brand new. Okay, valve springs. The valve springs are not brand new, but I had 3 or 4 sets of valve springs, and I measured them. I didn't do a compression test on them because I didn't have the tools at the time, but I measured them per Honda specs from factory service manual and selected all of those which fit the criteria for within spec. The camshaft, I measured it, it was within spec, and it's just stock. The connecting rods are also older than the 50,000 miles. Again, another one of those. I had a few sets, I measured them, took the best, put them in there. The rest of the engine was blueprinted. Literally all that means is you're going through and making sure all the tolerances are the same, not just like within a spec. So all of the, at the time, whenever I get ready to build the spare engine, I'm going to drop the spare engine in and pull this one out, running or not. And I'm going to measure all of the bearings and the ring gaps in the cylinder wall, the cylinder bore. And we're going to find out how much I've worn this engine and the however many miles it will have had on it when I pull it apart. It's not going to be anytime soon because building that engine that's just behind me over there is going to be something like $5,000 parts, not including the Pro Charger, which is $3,800 on its own. So it's $10,000 total in parts. Assuming by the time I have the money to do that, because I have other priorities first, assuming by the time I have the money to do that, the parts are still available, which given the popularity of this engine design is very probable. It's very probably for the next 20 years, parts are going to be available for what I want to do, because I'm using racing parts to build a fuel economy engine, because they share some amount of overlap in physics requirements. Okay? Wherein a race engine to be able to spin at a high speed without destroying itself, all of the bits must be lightweight. Because what you get is, it's not the motion that is the problem inside an engine. It is the acceleration. Because pistons reciprocate, right? You get pistons that reciprocate. They go up and then they go down, and then they go up and then they go down. So what you get is, this motion is fine. It's the motion when you get to this point, and it has to go from this direction to that direction very quickly. That is where you run into trouble. It's the acceleration, which the same can be said for anything. It's not the fall that kills you. The velocity is fine. It's the sudden acceleration to 0 at the end. Same reason why doing faster than light travel is not really feasible with a human crew. Like, unless we come up with some means of not actually accelerating to that point, but traversing a distance where the speed is a derived value, or velocity is a derived value, but not an actual value, it's a relational value, not an absolute value, right? Where we're traversing space in a short amount of time, but we're not accelerating to do that. We are simply bringing space together, which we won't even get into that because that's not really... There is a way, sort of, you could maybe do something like that, but it's not holding space-time. Probably. Back to engines. When I build that engine, I'm going to do it out of, is it this one? Actually, hold on. Do I have it? Let me see if these parts are still like, if these... Wait. Oh. Well, neither one of these sites seem to be pulling up. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Ah. Which could very well just be that... I hate when forums do this. They update their back end, but they don't create redirects. What was that? Okay, so this one still works. I have... Ooh. I have this forum post saved where this guy talks about a list of things that he's put in his car. I'm going to use some of these. Obviously, photo bucket from 2 weeks ago doesn't work, let alone years ago. Who knows when was this post made? 2009. So, like, you know, obviously photo bucket's not going to work because they do that same shit all the time, where they update their back end and it just screws every single external link. They don't... I don't know, they're stupid. One more time, we'll try this. I don't even know if the site is still there. Because this was a distributor for parts. But I made this bookmark link probably 5 years ago. So, what we're doing, I guess I can explain what we're doing to the engine real quick while I let my tea cool off enough to take a few sips before we open the door. My roommates are leaving, so I'm kind of waiting for them to head out. I guess what we'll do first is we'll open the door real quick, and then I'll sit back down and I'll explain to you guys what I'm doing to the engine. How about that? I also have in the Discord, for those of you not in the Discord, since Nightbot is crap. Are you going to work, Nightbot, at all? Today, I'm awake. Why aren't you awake? If I'm awake, there's something wrong if you ain't awake. Come on, Nightbot. My car projects. Not in that one. Content things? Hey, there he is, I guess. Content goal. Jake, every time I go and I look at no context, I'm like, God damn it. Where the hell did I put that? Cars and things. Ah, okay. So the Discord, under cars and things, I don't even remember where the shit that I put in there is. There's my custom ride list, which I think I have permissions set so that only I can put stuff in there. But people can talk about it in general. What I kind of want to do is have diagnostic help as an invite only. So we keep like chatter out of it, where we can do normal diagnostic chatter, like regular chatter from everybody in general in cars and things. But then whenever people, like someone actually needs, hey, can you help me diagnose this problem? We can talk about it in general, and then I can copy and paste the relevant messages into diagnostic help as single or one or two posts, so that we have a list of symptoms and some steps to troubleshoot and then a resolution. So that that's just like a repository for, hey, this is wrong, do these things, and here's what you should find, right? But I have started listing, put a lot more in there than I thought I did. I started listing all the things that I need to do for the car. For the engine, for the sensors, for the computer. Also, one of my... I don't know the point at which humans in general begin calling each other friends. I'm going to use the word friend. I don't know if the... sentiment is mutual or not. To the Gaming over on Twitch, he is going to school for computer science, programming, and such, and he's got some ambitions to make some games, or a game at least, and do some other things. And I asked him a few days ago if he would be on board with like taking on a commission to code. I'm going to design the hardware, so the an ECU, but to create the code for me, we'll have to sit down and go through like Speeduino and RustCFI and all of the homebrew DIY ECU stuff to get an idea of what's going on and to find some of the math required, which I still haven't done because I'm not even close to that point yet. But no ECU have I ever found does the thing exactly that I want to do in the Civic, right? Because I want a an open loop and a closed loop boost control map, just like you get for fueling and just like you get for ignition. I want a third one for boost, because I don't want all boost at all times. It's not a race car. It's not a maximum effort engine. What I am using increased cylinder pressure for is to flatten the dyno curve. I want the power to be as flat as possible. So at 500 RPM, I want to have 200 horses available. At 1,000 RPM, I want 200 horses. At 3,000 RPM, I want 200 horses. At 5,000 RPM, I want 200 horses. So what that's going to end up looking like is the boost map is going to have to be kind of a straight line up from 0, and then a taper down to engine peak efficiency, where at the engine's peak efficiency, there is 0 boost, it's bypassed, and as it drops off past that, the boost climbs back up again to redline. So you'd have a map that looks like that for power, and then a map that does the exact opposite for boost. And this would be controlled from temperature inputs. This would be called RPM inputs, obviously. Ignition inputs would have a play in this. All of this stuff has to mesh together to create the outcome that I want. Anybody that's putting boost on an engine in the past, I've never come across anybody that does variable boost for the purpose of making a flat dyno curve, a flat power curve. I've never seen that. And I have done probably 10 years of looking around, not straight. It's not, I have not spent every minute of every day spare online looking for information on how to do this. But I've spent the last 10 years, whenever it comes across my mind, doing more research and learning more things and figuring out more stuff. So I've never seen anybody that has done variable boost for the sole purpose of making a flat torque curve or a flat power curve. Everybody puts boost for power. And that's my problem, right? Is all these aftermarket parts, right? If you want fuel economy, you are relegated to OEMs that make the Honda Clarity, I hesitate to say these words, the intent for Chevy Cruze and Sonic is to be fuel economy, but they get worse economy than my 92 gas only, with twice the power. And it weighs more. And it breaks less often. The Insight, the Prius, EVs, all of this stuff, right? So everything that everybody designs aftermarket is for power racing. And all of the technology that we have in cars today comes from racers. All these people, they're like, oh, well, so I was talking to, I don't know how many of you guys out there know Tiny Rick. People from Lily's chat will know Tiny Rick Gaming. He's, you know, half German, half English streamer over there on the Twitch. And he knows he's a software engineer by career. That's what his job is. So I asked him, I was talking with him one time, and he and Blue Flame, which is a Dutch guy that they all come from Moonbo's chat, right? So it's there's a whole story there too, where I rediscovered all these people that I knew in Moonbo's chat like a year after Moonbo stopped streaming, and I found out, oh, a bunch of them actually streamed themselves. And it's cool, because now I can go and hang out with those cool people. The only thing we're missing is Moonbo, right? Because he's decided that other stuff takes priority, so he's doing his own thing. He doesn't stream like at all. He just stopped. And it's sad, because Moonbo is a cool dude, right? So, anyway, so I was talking with Blue Flame and Rick a while back about, you know, I was like, I asked Rick, would he be interested in taking a commission to program a cruise control module? Because OEM cruise controls are very, very stupid. They're very, very stupid. Even those ones that have LiDAR, radar, sonar, it's not sonar. You can put sonar in a car reasonably for high speed. Well, no, I guess you could. You could put 60, 70, 80,000 hertz sonar. So, you know, sonar, whatever. So the auto-adjust cruise control, where it comes up to some distance from a vehicle, and then it maintains that distance. It slows down, it speeds up to the speed you set previously, etc., etc. Even that is a very stupid system. It's very dumb. I want a cruise control that has multiple settings. I want standard cruise, which is speed hold. Hold that speed at all costs until I tell you to turn off. Standard cruise. That's perfectly fine for perfectly flat roads. It's perfectly fine for perfectly flat roads out in the middle of nowhere. It's a nice sunny day. You crack the window a little bit, no AC, no nothing. Just set it to 65, 70, 75, 80 miles an hour, whatever you're doing. And just, you know, listen to music or get lost in the lines, keep an eye out for fauna, whatever, right? Whatever you're doing. As long as it's flat, perfectly fine. That will net you, asterisk, that will net most people better fuel economy, because most people, their foots will, because they sit wrong, right? Jake, you should know this, being in the karting world. Most people sit in their vehicles incorrectly. 99% of humans do not have their limbs in the correct position for correct, efficient operation of their machines, right? So they'll sit there and they'll look down, oh, I'm doing 160, you know, they're stupid. The cruise control is meant to prevent that. It's meant to just keep a constant speed. The problem with standard throttle hold cruise control is that when you get to hills, Toyota is especially egregious about this, but Chevy does it too. So we can talk about Dodge if for anybody interested a little bit later. But Toyota's and GM's cruise controls, I don't know why. I don't know about the today ones, but up until about 10 years ago at least, the last time I interacted with them, you set speed hold. Okay? With Toyota, you set speed hold, take foot off throttle, it drops 5 miles an hour, floors it, goes up 10 over, and then comes back and settles. GM's doesn't do that. I will give GM their cruise control set. Okay, the software for their speed set is right on. You push the button, you let your foot off immediately, and it's holding. It's right there. No issues. But then you go up a hill, and it drops. And there has to be some hysteresis in the way this thing's controlled, otherwise it'll constantly be fighting itself. And then you just, what's the point of the cruise control? So, GM and Toyotas both will go speed down, speed down, speed down, speed down, speed down, floor! And then they'll just floor it all the way up a hill, like 10 mile an hour over what you set. And that's not good, right? Especially with signal conditioning that we have in ECUs today, that's just, we can do better. We can, but we don't, right? And I don't know about EVs. I've never been in an EV, because an EV cruise control is something completely different, right? It's motor control, not throttle control. There's a huge difference in control mechanisms between those two things. So I've not seen what EVs do. I imagine EVs are a hell of a lot more precise, simply because you can expect the noise that you're going to see, you can measure the noise you're going to see at all times, and you can account for that, and then everything else is a signal input, right? So what I want speed hold, sure, but then I want a hill mode, which is going to be sort of eco mode. So eco mode, you set a speed. It's going to have a throttle PID control. I use cable throttles, so that's going to be a fun one, because I don't like electronic control. They're too slow. They're sluggish. I've never in my life encountered, granted the race world has been working on it, so maybe the race versions are better, but I've never encountered an electronic throttle body where I hit the pedal and when I hit the pedal, it's going. Like, there's always a lag. It's always 200, 300 milliseconds, which isn't like crazy bad. 99.999% of people will never even notice this, right? Most people can't even calculate within a second, which is why you sit at green lights for 3 seconds before people start moving, and they're not even distracted. We're talking about people that are sitting there staring at the light, and it's 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Like, that was an eternity for me, those 3 seconds. That was just, why am I counting on stream? That's just silly. It's taking too long. Like, my brain. Okay, so if I see a 200 millisecond delay in my control system, it is wrong, right? The maximum delay that you should have in a control system in an automobile, for safety purposes, 1, and for comfortability and drivability purposes, 2, is propagation delay through an IC. Now, I will give you propagation delay through 3 ICs. In case you're running signals in and going through multiplexers, you have propagation delay through multiplexer. You then have propagation delay through the ECU calculator unit, the main CPU, the guy that does all the math, the algorithm. And then you'll have propagation delay through the memory, because memory is almost always a separate chip. I can't say that, I don't know anymore. We might be on FPGAs where memory is contained on IC, but you still have CPU core and memory core, and there's a propagation delay of electron wavefronts between one to the other, which is going to be something in the range of nanoseconds. So, I will accept a 1 millisecond delay between physical input to physical output on a machine, on a car. Anything more than 1 millisecond is unacceptable. It's a safety hazard, and it's a problem. Also, it causes inefficiencies in the system, which means you can't account for individual events as quickly or as efficiently, which means you're getting less fuel economy, is my goal, right? So, to that end, back to the eco mode cruise control. What I want it to do is, you're driving in a flat, right? And I don't know if I want this to intelligently select modes, or if I want to have you. So it's definitely going to have user select modes, but I'm debating on if I should have a switch for auto and manual only, where you have an override and you're like, no, you do what I tell you to do and nothing more, right? So the eco mode cruise control, what it would be is you set speed, okay? Or you set vacuum hold, so you can have 2 modes. And I plan on having a 3-mode cruise control: throttle hold, speed hold eco, vacuum hold, right? And speed hold eco and vacuum mode are going to kind of be the same thing, but they're going to be using the desired output is going to be a different value. It's going to come from a different sensor. It's going to be a different way of controlling the machine. So what I want is you're driving on a flat, going, call it 60 miles an hour, easy math for time, 60 an hour, and easy, right? We're not going to do time, but I always do 60 because it's easy. So you start to go up a hill. For speed hold, it would be, it's allowed to come down some X value. So call it 10%, which is 6 miles an hour on 60 miles an hour. Easy math, right? Quick maths. Where's that? It's Stream Deck. Quick maths. So it's allowed to come down, call it 10%, and this is stuff I'm going to have to experiment and find out what feels good to the user. But you go up a hill, it comes down 10%, and then instead of the throttle rise being a linear thing for the speed lost, what it'll do is as the speed is falling, you have a gradual rise, a shorter slope of rise, up to 10%. So instead of having a very steep slope of the throttle gets applied this quickly over this short period of speed loss, it's much more gentle until you reach that 10%. So it'll just very, very gently put on the throttle to try to maintain that, but it's acceptable to lose some speed. And I'm thinking about making that percentage user definable. So you could say, yeah, I want it to lose percent, I want it to lose mile per hour, and then at this line, that is when you start getting on it. Or you have the ability to tell it to turn that off and say, I don't want you to get on it, I want you to keep this slope of throttle the whole way through. If I'm set at 60, and I'm now going 45, that's fine, so long as I am moving. Granted, newer cars, newer engines, you got more power, it doesn't really matter so much, but for fuel economy, it matters a great deal. And going through hypermiler sites, like there's really nothing that is a produced product that people can just go out and buy that has intelligent cruise control. You can't hypermile a cruise control. They don't exist, as far as I can tell. Maybe there's some weird black market out there for them. I don't know. I haven't seen it. But vacuum hold would do something similar, where you're driving on a flat and you have 14 inches of mercury, because I'm a barbarian, fine. 450 millibar, I guess. Let's just call it 450 millibars. Yeah, 450 millibar manifold pressure, right? Which is a subtraction from 1 bar, not actual pressure. I don't know. It depends on how you program the sensor to read, right? But you're at about 40% throttle, cruising at 60 miles an hour, which you shouldn't be at 40% throttle. You should be at like 11% throttle. But for the sake of big numbers, make monkey brain happy. 40% throttle at 60 miles an hour, and you come up to a hill, and you set this for 450 millibar. It's allowed to peak to some user-definable value, probably, or you can have an auto mode. And this would all be stuff you'd set up when you first purchase the machine, when you first purchase the module, when you first install it, whatever. This, you go in with just USB, it plugs in, you get you can get a USB dongle or a disc or something with it. Nothing have disc trays anymore, so USB dongle or a download or a QR code or whatever. And you install the software. It comes with the UART software. It comes with Arduino IDE, if that's what I end up using to program the thing or to build the thing in the first place, etc., etc. It comes with everything you need. You don't have to DIY any of this shit. It installs it, it configures it, it does all of it on its own, just like anything you would expect to. And it comes up with a pop-up, and it has a wizard, and it walks you through, holds your hand step by step, or you could choose advanced mode to set it up, which is what I would use. I hate wizards. Wizards are too slow. 1 value per page guy? No, get the fuck out of here. Give me all the values on one thing, I can see how they correlate to each other, and I can make a decision, right? And most of the people that are going to be installing stuff like this are going to be sort of similar to me, where they prefer a lot of more hands-on, doing it themselves, seeing all the data and the information, spreadsheets, engineers on, blah, 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 all that stuff. So You set it all up on initial install, and then it's stored in, wait for it, king ROM. Read only memory. You have rewritable ROMs today. We have had since the fucking 70s. Why would you have anything that loses its memory on battery disconnects? Period. Radios, aftermarket radios, still do that shit. You set up user-definable settings, and when you disconnect the battery, they're all gone. Why? ROM. Bugs the shit out of me. To no end. I think that's the end of the explaining rant for the cruise control, actually. Yeah, I want a smart cruise control. I explain this idea to people and they're like, well, why don't you just set the speed and go down the road? Because I can get better fuel economy out of my foot than I have ever seen any cruise control get. Period. I have never had a cruise control get better fuel economy than me. Has never happened. Not once. My grandmother. Good example. You notice this with vehicles that get lower fuel economy more than you notice it with vehicles that get good at fuel economy anyway. My grandmother has a 2006 Jeep Commander with the 4.7 V8. Chrysler's attempt at a modular engine design that was just garbage. Don't ever buy one. You can avoid it. But we drove her truck from Michigan to Arizona, 2,100 miles ish. So when I get in the thing, the way she drives it, she drives cruise control on the highways, and she's older lady, so she drives reasonably around town. Cool. And she pays attention to her fuel economy. Cool. Still too hot. So, I get in this machine and it's at like 17.2 miles to the gallon, something like that. By the time we got back to Arizona, with me driving by foot the whole way because oh my god, Chrysler Cruise Control. Oh my lord, Chrysler Cruise Control. So I used cruise control in this Jeep because we were pulling a trailer. So I used cruise control in this Jeep down hills because 2006 was the first iteration from Chrysler of automatic downshifting. If you have cruise control set and the vehicle starts to overrun the cruise control set speed, it'll downshift as you should. Never ride your fucking brakes down a fucking hill. It is stupid. Brakes are for stopping. Engines and transmissions are for slowing. But it would automatically downshift going downhill, so I'd use the cruise control for that. And not much else, right? Because it was terrible. It was like, the hell are you doing? So, ride by foot the whole damn way, and this is like, Jeep Commander is one of the most intentionally uncomfortable interiors I have ever been in. The pillars are too big. The windshield, or the top of the windshield and where the roof comes out sits way the hell up here. So you can't see a traffic light in front of you if you're the first person in line, which is kind of the point at which you need to be able to see the light. For me to see the light when sitting in this machine, keeping in mind that I sit leaned back because of my hip and my back, I don't sit at 90 degrees like everybody else on the fucking planet does for some stupid ass reason, because it's painful to me. So I sit slightly leaned back, and I'm further back, which means I'm also further back in the roof, but I'm also lower, right? And I can't see the light. To see the light, I had to lean sideways and look up at an angle to see the freaking stoplight. Or you have to stop a quarter mile away from the stoplight, so 3 or 4 lights ago. The door handle, the interior door handle for opening the door, is a stupid semicircular thing that sticks out of the surface, the plane of the door panel, and digs directly into your knee. The center console is at the wrong height for anybody that's a human. It sits like up here or something. I don't remember. It's just terrible. The door is like up here, and the window's only about that big. It's like they were trying to design a troop carrier, but not have people pay for a troop carrier? I don't know. It's just... 2006 Jeep Commander is easily one of the worst vehicles I have ever driven from sitting in the side. But by the time we got to Arizona, the fuel economy that the dash was telling me, and I did the math myself, and it was like within 2%. But I had taken it from low 17s to almost 20 miles a gallon. So, cruise control is garbage. Plain and simple. Cruise control is for lazy people. Lane assist is for lazy people. Auto park is for lazy people. Auto drive is for lazy people. People that simply cannot be bothered to understand what they're doing in the machine and operate the machine correctly. And the more technology we put in these machines, the worse that effect becomes. What they should have done, which granted there's no way you could do this reasonably, doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to say it out of my ass anyway. What they should have done is they should have been developing these technologies in secret until they were mature and could all be implemented simultaneously on a single machine. Because people have become worse drivers because of technology, than they were 20 years ago. Because they're no longer required by the machine to pay attention to the machine. Butter! ¿Qué pasó? How goes it? I'm ranting and raving. About 10 minutes, I'm going to open up the garage and we'll start doing car stuff. He's still too hot. But I figured it, also, it's been a while since I did a stream thing, and I had some ideas for stuff I need to do to the car before the trip. Again, more, still. And so we're going to do some of those here in a minute. I was going to explain, before I went off on a tangent, I was going to explain what we're doing to the engine. Whenever the hell I get around to having the money and the gumption and the time to do it. So, for that, let me open the garagey door real quick. It is 64 degrees Fahrenheit in the garage today. I'm going to open the door and that's going to drop fairly quickly. Oh, but that's okay. It does not appear that my roommates have left yet. Part of the reason I'm waiting is I'm waiting for my roommates to head out so I can have like free reign of the driveway. It's just easier than shuffling cars every day. Part of the reason I don't do stuff in the garage as much as I probably could is shuffling cars is really fucking annoying. I really don't like it. I did that for years working on cars, like stuff we had to pull in every day because the customers were concerned about it, or we wanted to get a fresh start in the morning, or whatever. It's always shuffling cars. 30% of your day at a shop is shuffling cars. Anyway, the engine that I'm going to build, I'm going to leave things out that are kind of givens, things that are like, duh, of course I'm going to do this. So we're not going to talk about the flywheel, we're not going to talk about things like valve springs or anything like that. Any of the kind of stuff that's like, if you're doing all the rest of this, you have to do these other things also. We're going to ignore those, unless I forget to ignore those and I start talking about them anyway. So the end goal, which I guess I should put in the Discord at some point. I should put the end goal in the Discord also. I've been putting parts in there, but I should put end goal. But the end goal for the engine that I'm going to be building is somewhere between 200 and 250 horses. Ideally, 180 to 240 foot-pounds of torque. Given that it's going to be all lightweight components, I don't know that that's going to be possible. But I'm going to design the intake to give me a little bit better torque. I'm going to try to move the power band down just a little bit. Not a whole lot because it's a Honda engine, right? They just like to rev anyway. But this engine that I build that's just a base D16Y7, we're going with the Y8 oil pan because it's aluminum. And I just want the aluminum pan because of its seal surface. Its sealing surface is superior to the steel pan that came on the Y7 on the D15B series engines, on the D17 steel pans. All of the steel pans, I don't like the gasket. The aluminum pan has it's a silicone gasket that goes into a rib all the way around the circumference, and it's shaped like that instead of a flat all the way around gasket, so its sealing is superior. We're going to use the stock crank, the stock D16Y7 connecting rods. I'm going to have the camshaft reground by Brian Crower. You send it to them, they grind it to your specs, and then send it back. And you can't get a single cam fresh cam. You can't get a race cam or whatever, or a single cam, the D series Honda engines. I don't know why exactly, but it doesn't seem like you can. Someone might be able to do a billet thing. I don't know, but that's $2,000 for a cam probably. Pass. It doesn't need to be that much more than stock, so a regrind is going to be more than sufficient anyway. For this build, I'm not going to change the rocker arm ratio. I'm not going to change, I'm going to put slightly stiffer springs, which is all I'm going to mention about it, so it can rev to 8,500 reliably, as opposed to the stock engine that starts to float valves around 7,400. You don't want to go with crazy stiff springs for fuel economy because that's energy you have to input just to turn the engine. Right? So we still want to keep it, but I want it capable of sitting at redline without blowing itself up. Like just sit there, floored, going down that road, just which it's not going to do that. It's going to be because it's going to be a soft rev limiter on the ignition side, not a fuel cut or an ignition cut, ideally. I'll probably have a fuel and ignition cut above the soft ignition limiter for emergency cases, just in case. But it's going to be a soft limiter, so it just goes, it just sits there. It's going to get the fun bits, full custom exhaust, designed by me. I've got to get in CAD at some point and start mocking up the cylinder head. Just the ports and the planes is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do super in-depth. But it's going to get full custom exhaust all the way back. Tuned specifically for that exact engine, which is going to take some doing because I have to run the engine first to get some numbers out of it to tune it. Like you can do math all day long. Sometimes the real world doesn't agree with math because we don't have all the math for it, right? We have a lot of the math for it, but so we have the math for it, but a change in barometric pressure will make a change in exhaust requirements, make a change in intake requirements, make a change in valve requirements. So you have to kind of take all of these things and condense them down into one thing that you can stick on the machine that works for all of these situations mostly. And that's why engines are such a big engineering feat because of that. It's going to get 2 throttle bodies. Cable driven via probably a linkage of some kind that I'll have to come up with. It's going to get 2 independent plastic, so FDM 3D printed intake manifolds that I still have to come up with how I want to do it exactly. Obviously, full custom intake tract. It's going to get a crankcase vacuum pump, so I don't have to rely on a PCV system or manifold vacuum, because having 2 independent intake manifolds means I'm not going to have 4 cylinders worth of vacuum in a manifold. I'm going to have 2 cylinders, which is a lot of pulsing, and it's not really going to work for a PCV valve. So I'm going to have to put a vacuum pump on there. That's fine. I'm moving the power steering pump. It's going away. There's plenty of room in the back of the engine. I can put it there, wherever. There's plenty of room. It's also going to be, it's not going to be a belt driven, so it doesn't matter. It's going to be electric vacuum pump. So it doesn't matter anyway. Let's see. The cooling system is going to remain stock. I've got a 2-core, no. I was going to get the 2-core. I haven't ordered it yet. Sometimes things in my head are things from dreams. They're not things I've done yet. Which is annoying, because my dreams are just reality. So, I have not yet ordered the radiator that I want to order and put it in. I was going to do it in Vegas, and then I decided against it because I found another radiator. The radiator that's in there right now is a copper cord guy from the previous era, the 87 to 91s. So copper core, copper tank, soldered all the way around. As long as there's no galvanic corrosion, which there is not because I have everything grounded on this engine. The transmission is grounded, the intake's grounded, the valve cover's grounded, the block's grounded, the radiator's grounded, everything's grounded. Okay, everything sits at millivolts of potential. So chances and rate of galvanic corrosion are very, 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 very small, and I keep fresh coolant in it at all times with good corrosion inhibitors to prevent galvanic corrosion from happening in the first place. So it's going to get stock crank, ground cam, stock rods, stock D16Y7 head. I'm going to have to measure the gears, the timing gears, and make the determination of what, because I'm changing, I will be milling the head and the block just a little bit to bring them closer together to reduce the combustion chamber volume, essentially. And then adjustable timing gear for the cam, and then the key that's going to make the first half of this engine what I want it to be, D15B7 pistons. Stock pistons, which I'm going to get forged pistons, obviously, because I'm adding boost, so it's no reason not to. But the D15B7's wrist pin sits something like 1.5 millimeters or 1 millimeter lower in the piston than the D16Y7, which means the piston is higher, right? So I get the same stroke from the D16Y7 crankshaft, but I get 11.5 to 1. Thank you. I get 11.5 or 12 to 1 compression out of literally D16Y7 engine with D15B7 pistons. Right? And everyone that I've told this plan to, they're like, oh, well, you're going to be adding boost. You don't want to have low compression. Bro, let me stop you there. You're stupid. 1. With a running engine, you get energy efficiency. This isn't fuel economy. This isn't power necessarily. They translate into both of those things. But to get energy efficiency, to get the most energy rotational out of your fuel from combustion linear, right? To get the most energy out of your fuel combustion, you want the compression to be as absolutely high as it possibly can be, right? For a gasoline engine, you don't want that too high because you get it into pre-ignition, dieseling, which is how diesel engines work, because gasoline is a lot more unpredictable because of the varying levels of entanes that are contained in the fuel. So you can't put as high a compression ratio in a gasoline engine that you can in a diesel, typically. But a lot of new engines, Atkinson engines, are doing. Sky Active is doing it too. Variable compression ratios using the variable valve timing. So you leave the intake valve open a little bit longer, or you leave the exhaust valve open a little bit longer, whichever way they do it, to reduce the overall compression. So you're putting fuel in, and then you're leaving the valve open as the piston's coming up, and then it closes, and you get whatever compression ratio that is from that. You're essentially making it a shorter stroke, is what you're doing. So you can do that to reduce that compression ratio and reduce some of the stress on the engine, and only get that compression when you want it. I want it all the time. I want the air flowing into the engine in a controlled manner all the time. So no VTEC, no VVT, none of this stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to design a reliable, high compression engine, but
How much color is that?
right? Camera.
I know. Roommate man.
Roommate man. The asshole that starts his car when I'm in the middle of a fucking monologue.
You're welcome. Reality.
So when is birthday? When do you guys know what their birthday stuff?
For Miranda?
Are you going up on Tuesday?
No. I think the next time we're going to Kofi is Halloween.
Are you going up for her birthday?
We're giving her a present today.
Oh.
Yeah, but I figured.
I don't know, maybe.
I gotta go up next week sometime to do some more. Nick says hi.
Hi!
Gotta go up sometime to finish Reese's mom's place, and oh, I have to go up one more time. I don't know that it's gonna be next week or not, to buy the trailer.
Taylor.
As soon as Sean sends me the fucking money,
You in there?
Oh, well,
he's doing fucking, he's working.
That's why I was like, why are you yelling at him if he's not there?
but I never asked you what happened with that car hauler trailer. Did it actually get out of that yard, or?
I have no idea.
I guess I'm asking.
I have no idea.
I didn't know if you knew or not.
He was yesterday, day before yesterday. He was like, "Oh, you could take you put a receiver on the Civic. You could take this car dolly." I'm like, "Dude, they'll rip the hell back into my car off."
Yeah, he.
That car dolly is just. If I had known that it was made out of like 1/2-inch plate steel, I'd been like, "That's not a car dolly. That's a tank minus a turret." That thing. I tried to lift it. Have you tried to lift the tongue of it? Try to lift the tongue of it when you're up there. Next time. The tongue weight is like 600 pounds. It's insane. I struggled with it. Okay, I ain't small.
Okay, but it might. I mean, it's rolling weight. It won't be that.
No, it's in front of the axle. It's tongue weight. Where'd I go?
The rest of the weight will be on the trip.
And it's just like, I don't know who the hell built that.
It's okay. Now that we got the car hauler, we can actually probably sell the dolly.
Yeah, that was an idea. We're gonna put some plates on the car hauler. If he still got it. I don't know if he still got it or not.
I gotta ask my dad.
But we need to.
Well, we gotta go.
We need to figure out something with his truck because
He's got an entire engine, got an entire other truck.
I know, and he's like, oh, well, we can check this and we can check this. Hey,
Just
send the computer out to get it rebuilt as your first step. It's a known common problem.
That's cheaper.
So just send. It's like $200.
I told him, I was like, do it.
Send it out and get it back. If it still continues to do it, because I suspect that that's most likely the problem, because it's intermittent, it acts like a computer problem.
It does. That's what I told him too.
So send it out, get it back, and if it doesn't work, then you've got a rebuilt unit in there, and we know that it is good.
Yeah.
Because if I can't connect to it with my scanner, you can't get a scanner to connect to it because I think the bully dog, they tie the transmit and receive line as opposed to them being separate like Canon OB2 is. So I think they tied them together, which is why my scanner's like, nah, bro, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah, he had it aftermarketed. But, like, his buddy is the one who did it. He could just call his friend.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can get something to connect to it and we can actually test things, then we can test things.
I bet you he could call... I wonder if he's even called Bully Dog. Bully Dog's the one who did it. Call him and be like, hey, my computer's being weird. Can you take a look at it?
Yeah.
I'll talk to him. But...
And it's just... And he keeps saying all these things, like, oh, we can take a look at this, and we can take a look at this. Tate, it's pointless until you start from a known good. You need to start from a known good.
I never asked you, did landlord lady ever come by and fix the sprinkler over here? Those two.
I have no idea.
I don't even know when they got turned off. That's been off all summer. That's why our lawn was so dead.
So they turned it off, I think when they were doing the thing.
I know, but I turned it back on after that. I don't know when it got turned back on.
I have no idea. I don't remember.
So I don't know
Granted, I mean, they could have, and I just, like, brain things.
So if you're bored today, if you want to turn on Area 1 and see if it flows water.
Try to figure it out.
Just put it on 1 and then hit run start. And it's like a manual start or whatever, and then if you hit manual start again, it should shut off.
As soon as you learn FreeCAD, I'll do that.
That's easier. Rude.
No!
Yes!
An asshole!
Isn't that an asshole? You're an asshole.
I'm an asshole, he's an asshole. We're all assholes!
That's why we like each other. I'm an asshole, but
I'm an asshole! Oh, yo.
have fun.
Yeah. Okay, so now that they're leaving, we can start pulling the car in and do the things that I have to do. But, was I done talking about the engine? I don't even remember. I was talking about high compression. We want high compression so that the engine NA, by itself, under its own power, is good and reliable. So high compression, that's... I'm going to have to do some research into bearings because we use different bearings. If I go to Napa or O'Reilly's or Advance or whoever, and I get rod and crank bearings for this, that engine, for the Y7, they are going to be the bearing material composition from that era, which was designed to handle the 9-to-1 Tiger. How goes it? Talking about engine stuff before I pull the car in and do some car stuff. I'm finally doing some car stuff. I'm doing a stream that I haven't done in like weeks. So I need to figure out what bearing composition I need for the crank bearings and the rod bearings. That's always good. Food is my breakfast. I will be eating real food later, but I don't know. It's my stomach doesn't do food early on, like early in the day. It takes usually between 1 and 4 hours before I can eat without feeling kind of irpy. Not really sick or nauseous. It's just kind of like my stomach doesn't feel quite right if I eat too early, which is stupid because you should eat first thing when you get up. Break fast. My body is stupid. Oh yeah, the mugga. That's right. I was there for that. Old man brain. I forget shit. I got old man mush brain. I forgot what I was doing it. What was I talking about? I don't remember what I was talking about. Bearing compositions. That's right. Because we have new bearing compositions for new materials for newer engines. So I'm going to have to find something that matches dimensionally for that engine but it's probably going to be the numbers and the designation are going to have to be for some other machine. That's going to be fun. But a lot of OEMs like to use kind of standardized stuff because the tooling already exists for a lot of things, so it's easier to use something that already exists than to make something all brand new anyway. So there should be stuff that exists that should not be too hard to find for that. And then we get the 4 or 5 dimensional boost control system. And I'm going to put a Pro Charger. So the Pro Charger that I'm looking at, it's the C8 or the C5, something like that, from Pro Charger, the company. Because as far as I know, they're the only ones that make a belt-driven turbo. Or they're the only ones that make a reliable belt-driven turbo. It's going to go on there. And there's one, the one that I was looking at is designed, they say minimum engine horsepower 150. And up to like 2 bar, which is 28 PSI. And I'm not ever going to need that. So I'm going to be running this thing well under its design spec, which means it'll last longer. I'm going to put it away from the exhaust as much as I can. So it's either going to be on a shaft or it's going to be in the back of the engine. So it's not getting exhaust heat all the time. Or I'm going to put really, really good heat shielding over the exhaust. So the oil inside, it doesn't fail. And I'm tempted... Okay. Actually, I could probably do that. Thinking about... Hold on. The Pro Chargers are filled with oil, because anything that moves against anything else requires lubrication. So, I wonder what the oil level is. Is the case completely filled? Like you filled the oil until it is at the fill plug on a Pro Charger? Or do you just fill it up with some measured amount and it sits below that point? If it fills all the way up, you could feasibly put oil like you would a turbo. You could feed it oil from the engine and run that through and back down into the... Which I'm planning on putting a remote oil filter on it anyway to make oil changes easier, because the oil filter sits up above the CV axle in the back of the block on both of these engines, and it's not hard, it's just slightly annoying. So I'm going to put an oil filter relocator on it and an oil cooler. So my oil capacity is going to go up to about 6 quarts instead of 4, which is going to make my oil last longer in between changes. The cost is going to end up being net zero, because by the time the 4 quarts will need to be changed, and by the time the 6 quarts will need to be changed, so 12 quarts in total, 2 oil changes on the 6, 3 oil changes on the 4, you will have spent the same amount of money over the same period of time because of oil contamination and filter capabilities and what have you. It's going to end up being pretty damn close to net zero in cost. So it's not a cost thing. It's more a I don't have to do it as often because I'm lazy thing. And it'll help the internals of the engine last longer because the oil will stay cooler and will break down less at higher loads, and I won't have to worry as much about sitting there going up a hill at 5,000 RPM. Because it happens. Steep enough hill, heavy enough load, you put it in second or third and just put the foot down. And it's a Honda, so it loves it. I also, very, very important for this engine, I also am going to install, because eventually I'm going to design my own engine and have it cut billet, and same with the transmission. I'm going to design my own transmission. It's going to be a cartridge transmission, so if you want 4 gears, buy a 4-gear cartridge. If you want 5 gears, buy a 5-gear cartridge. If you want 6 gears, buy a 6-gear cartridge. It all goes in the same outer casing. I want to design it as an 8-speed. I don't know that I have the space inside that car necessarily for an 8-speed. with the stock engine bay arrangement. But I will do some measurations and we'll find out. If I have to move the engine over a little bit closer, because there's room between the frame and the engine. I can move it closer, make it a smaller distance, which it needs to be wide enough to get a wrench in so I can adjust the belts. Right? Because I'm not doing an automatic tensioner. Automatic tensioners are dumb. I hate single belt systems. Single belt systems are bad. If you have a belt fail, you always want there to be more belts for other systems so that you can continue driving or get off the road safely or whatever. You're not just dead and out and you're done, right? But also, I can drive this thing without an alternator for about an hour and a half before the battery dies. Anyway, I think. I haven't measured it. I should measure it. With the battery size that's in it right now, it might go for 3 or 4 hours. Because the engine only uses... Like, I have no heavy power requirements inside the car. Zero. Even with the blower on and the lights on, the total current draw is like 12 amps. Like, it's nothing. And I love it, and I want it to stay that way. So like... Oh shit, 12 amp... Yeah. I think that's like a 95 amp hour battery. Big old 65 series Ford truck battery. Even divided by 12... That's like 4 or 5 hours. That's with everything on. That's kind of cool. The factory battery would last about 20 minutes with a small, low-power stereo. Suffice it to say, we got rid of that really, really fast. That was one of the first non-bolt-on upgrades that I did to the car, was getting rid of that 54R. 24R? I don't know. Getting rid of the golf cart battery that was inside the Civic and putting the Ford truck battery. And I call it that because most of the vehicles that I've seen that battery go into, the 65 series batteries, is Ford trucks. Explorers, F-150s, 250s, etc., etc. So, Ford truck battery. But it's a big, big battery. Lots of... What's funny is I actually destroyed a battery previously because of vibrations and various means, leaving lights on for days on end, etc., etc. I damaged the battery internally. And even then, even with the battery only holding like 11.4 volts after turning the engine off, the car would start just fine. That was nuts. Anyway. I've got to change the camera, ain't I? Hello? Ah. Okay. So now, flashbang! I gotta move some things around real quick. I'm gonna pull the Civic in. We've got to do some change of ratings and some add ratings and some stuff. Because I need to make a new camera mount for the rear camera, because the old one is just insufficient and in the way. And then I have to reinforce front camera mount. It vibrates. For those of you who might have watched my 20-hour straight road trip video on channel, you will have noticed that the front video was very, very shaky and vibrationally. You can add verbalize any word if you can add ly to the end of it, damn it. Shut up. Pointing at the wrong camera. And that's because it's mounted to the floor via two bolts, and it has a single shaft that comes up to the middle of the windshield so that I can get a view over the cowl, obviously. And it, at the right RPM, it'll just sit there and resonantly vibrate continuously, forever and ever and ever. So, move some things around a little bit and get the Civic in like halfway. I also think today might be a long day. You guys might be in for a treat. I'm thinking that I want to do the wheel horse discharge shoot, which, if and or when Colin shows up, I'll get a kick out of that. Keeps bugging me to do more videos about the wheel horse. What do you want me to do? Just drive it around the yard? I mean, I could do that. That is totally something that I could do. I need to get TTS set up. That's what I need to do. Well, don't want to sit pretty, do you? You know what? We ain't taking that. I was going to take the experimental front fender for the bike. I don't know that I'm going to. I don't know that I need to. Because I can build a new one the same way I built this one. Like, do it. I don't know that I need this. Also, for those of you who didn't hear my monologuing first thing, I shall make a little repeat. I'm going to start numbering my... Actually, it might have been something I was telling myself before I started the stream. I might not have actually said it out loud. I'm telling you, man, old man brain, the thing. But I'm going to start numbering the streams. I got the idea from Gord McLeod, another one of the streamers I watch regularly over on the Twitch. Check him out. Cool dude, very chill. Nice, cool, chill streams. And if I ever get to a point, so I kind of want to finish my book, my novel, right? Now that I've got the dictation stuff up and running, and it's doing a pretty damn good job, if I say so myself. For me, getting into the flow of dictation has actually been very simple, because it's the only thing that you have to say, other than the words that you're putting down, is punctuation. I say that stuff in my head when I type anyway, because I have to remind myself to put it in there, otherwise it's just run-on sentence, no capitalization, no none of that. And when I type, a lot of times my pinkies aren't fast enough, so I type through either capitalizations too far into a word, multiple letters capitalized, or my pinky goes down and comes up before the rest of my fingers have time to start typing the word, so I don't have capitalization on it. And going through that and correcting that in an edit, in a second draft, or a first draft, I guess. You have rough and first, however you want to call it. It's 0 and 1 or 1 and 2. depends on who you are. That is a lot more work than doing it live with my face, telling the software to do the stuff, because it puts in 2 spaces after a period and capitalizes the next letter. Sometimes it doesn't get the first letter of a sentence capitalized if it's the first sentence on a new line, but that's easy to go through and find. Just look for the new line where a sentence starts. And I've just so far been putting down notes, so it's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. Run-on sentences, lack of punctuation. As I go through and I start writing the novel itself, it will become more important, and maybe I'll have to pay more attention. But I was just looking at my papers. I wasn't even really paying that much attention to the screen when I was dictating my notes, other than after every paragraph or so, I'd look up and make sure that all the words that I had said were in there. And then corrections are super easy. You tell it a word, correct this word. If there's multiple instances of it, it brings up numbers. You tell it which number, and then it comes up with a short list of possible corrections. If it's not in there, tell it you want it to spell it yourself, and you say the spelling, and it most of the time gets it. Keeping in mind also that this was before the learning process of the software. So last night or the night before, I closed the software completely. It's been running for the last week. And I closed the software completely, and it went through a training process on the language model, or my accent, my timbre, my tone of voice, etc., to get more accurate outputs from the language model into your word processor. So, we will find out the next time I open that how well that went and how accurate it is. I, of course, obviously, had to add all the fun words, because every single... I don't know why people do this. Like, human beings cuss. I say cuss words all the fucking time. Constantly. I cuss like a sailor, IRL. What you guys hear, the random every now and then cussing that you get from me here in stream, is nothing. It is nothing. I limit myself very severely on stream. Okay? And I know that I don't have to necessarily. Especially for live streams, and especially because I'm not monetized, it doesn't really matter. Right? But I like to try to set a precedent, because we do have, from time to time, in chat, in stream, very rarely whenever I get around to doing it in voice chat, like say in Discord, we have, younglings. And I am not their parent. I am not their guardian. I am just some random schmo on the internet. And, if I had kids, because I cuss like a sailor, one of the first things I'm doing is I'm teaching my child, look, here is a set of words that you must be very, very careful with. If you want to say them, learn how they're used, just like all the rest of the language, and by all means, if we're at home, fuck this, fuck that. Get out of here, you shitbag. Say them. I don't care. It's especially funny when children cuss. I love it. I think it's hysterical. Especially when they're using the word incorrectly. That's always funny to me. But not all parents are like that. Some parents would rather their kids don't cuss at all. Or some parents would rather they wait until some specified age before they start interacting with these words, so that they can get a better grasp on when to use or when to not use these words. Because if your kid goes to school and tells the teacher to fuck off, that's going to be a problem. Because you shouldn't be doing that. Even as an adult, you really shouldn't be doing that. But it could happen. If your 5-year-old learns that word prior to learning the correct use case and acceptable use case for that word, right? So I would teach my kids early on, same with, I'm a big, huge, gigantic proponent of the Second Amendment of the Constitution of these United States of America. I believe that every place on the planet should have such philosophy, legislature, rulings, laws, whatever. I honestly believe that because humans are terrible. Because not everybody wants to kill you simply because you looked at them funny. But it doesn't take everybody doing it. It only takes the one crazy to hurt somebody. That's all it takes. And if the person can defend themselves, the victim can defend themselves, all the better. Right? And because our species is not yet evolved sufficiently, that those people don't exist. They exist. They exist everywhere. People that want to hurt others for no reason other than they find it entertaining. Those people exist today, everywhere. That's a rant for another day. Different parents have different ideas on how to raise their children, and that's what makes different people different, and what makes them process differently, and what makes them speak to each other differently, and what makes them use language differently, and design things differently, and come up with different ideas, and that is good. That is a good thing. So, I limit myself when I speak on stream, for the most part. Sometimes I get a bit rowdy and will, have a jolly good laugh, but I try to limit myself because there are people that drop by, Butter for instance. Perhaps his parents and or guardians do not want him going places that just, throwing out words like that willy-nilly left and right, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know Butter as a person. I don't know Butter's family as people. I just know them as somebody that I interact with online from time to time, right? So I don't know. So we try to limit ourselves a little bit. And we try to be, I'm not going to say family friendly. Nothing about me is necessarily family friendly. But I try to be not intentionally offensive in such a manner, like my friends would laugh at that statement, okay? I will tell you right now, my friends, if I said that to any of my friends IRL, I tried to be not intentionally offensive, okay? They would smack me and call me Sally. Because technically, that statement, as it stands, alone, is a lie. I will absolutely, from time to time, go out of my way just to offend people. Okay? It's a thing that I will do. And I take pride in it. Because when I was in high school, I had a philosophy that if you were not pissing off at least one person every day, you were living your life incorrectly. And while the thought has evolved, and I don't necessarily say it that much anymore, the sentiment is still valid? Valid. The sentiment is still valid. In as much as you can't please everybody. You can't do it. It's impossible. Right? So, in as much as you cannot, I need that. Use this. In as much as you cannot please everybody at all times, you're going to piss some people off. People are going to get mad at you for something. Some people will invent reasons to be mad at you. There's a reason we have jokes about Karen, right? Because there are people who will simply invent problems where problems did not previously exist. And those people themselves are problems. But because we can no longer do the things we used to do 1,000 years ago, or corrective actions in societal problems, we're stuck with them. Take with that from you will. Take from that what you will. Jesus. Can't even speak. Over there, Woo. Alright, so we got a pull. I'm going to move the bike. I'm going to pull the Civic in. I'm going to pull it in ass first. Think. Where did I put the broom? First, I'm going to sweep the floor. That's what we're going to do first. I need to make a stabilizer bracket for the front camera, as I said previously. And I need to recreate, I need to build a new, fresh, as yet unseen, as yet undesigned. I will do it on the fly. Mount for the rear facing camera, because I want to do. So part of the reason I've started this channel, one of the various things that I had in my brain that I was like, you know what, this is something that I want my channel to do, to stand for, to be. I want people to be able to think of what it runs and this particular thing that happens, that occurs on the channel is road trips. Because I do not road trip similar to anybody else that I've ever seen. What I mean by that is, you have some people, they do van life. Okay? And the people that are going to be recording their van life for the purpose of posting it online in a vlog format, they're doing it for the sole purpose of vlogging, right? They're doing it because they're wanting to show people things. Something that's in their head, something that's on the side of the road, some things. So they're going to be driving 2 hours and stopping. They're going to be driving 3 hours, stopping. They're going to be doing this, they're going to be doing that, they're going to be getting out, they're going to be driving 8 hours max in a day. Whatever. I don't do that. I don't do any of that. All of the stuff that I see on a road trip, 98% of the stuff that I see on a road trip, I drive right past, I note it as a cool thing, so I can tell people about it, and then I just continue going. I have very little desire to stop and show all of the people all of the things. Right? So, first, there's that issue. I don't road trip the same as everybody else. I don't road trip the same as, well, I don't do 99% of things the same as 99% of people. Right, so my standard format for a road trip is get in car, fill car up with gas, put down, 3-4 hours later, get 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 gas, put down. I drive. It's a road trip, not a stop trip. We're not stopping for every little thing that we see on the side of the road. To that end, I was going to pull it over here and show you. I cannot do that. I will torch. Cool. I will pick the camera up and I will show you. To that end, I have built, mostly myself, this tank. Thank you, light. This tank, which is the replacement fuel tank for the Civic. That tank is approximately, since I'm too lazy to measure actual volume, all the parts going inside of it, that tank is approximately 30 US gallons. Factory tank that is in the Civic will be coming out. That tank that is coming out is approximately 11.8 gallons. You fix that power steering pump. The 11.8 gallon fuel tank that is stock in the 87 to 04, I think, Honda Civics. It was a common volume that they used across a bunch of different cars. It will get me max fuel economy. Currently is like 42, 45-ish, depending on the road conditions. It will net me 450 miles on a tank. That's not enough. I want to stop for me, not the machine. To that end, 30-gallon fuel tank. I will more than double, I will almost triple my distance. And, before anybody says anything, the first thing that people say, oh, you're going to be putting more fuel in it, which is heavier, which is going to get less fuel mileage. Okay, so, let's address the not elephant that is not in the room. The fuel economy, wait. Okay, I have hauled in that car 200 or 300 pounds in the back, in the side, with people, etc., etc. The fuel economy changes less than 2.5%. It's like 2.25. Okay, so 2% of 40 is what? About 0.8. 0.8 miles per gallon I get from 200 or 300 pounds in weight. Okay, well, how much more fuel am I adding putting a 30-gallon fuel tank in? The tank weighs less than the factory tank, mind you, by like 3 pounds. It's negligible, you can ignore it. By taking out the factory 12-gallon tank and putting it in a 30-gallon tank, what is the weight difference? I'll give you a second. Answer: 108 pounds, maximum. Which means, ho ho ho, I'm going to be losing less than 0.4 miles to the gallon. Because the math is linear. So, I think 0.4 miles to the gallon is a sufficient price to pay for not having to stop in the first place. That's 2 fuel stops. 2 fuel stops I can now ignore, which means, because acceleration in this car, with this engine, in this configuration, uses 5 times as much fuel than cruising. Cruising takes very little fuel, especially if you're cruising at 60, 65 miles an hour. Right? 65 miles an hour, this car gets in the 60s to low 70s miles per gallon on a flat with no wind. Okay? Turn the AC on, that drops. Go up a hill, that drops. Nothing is ever on a perfect flat with no wind, etc., etc. Okay? So, highway average over a long distance, minimizing stops as much as possible. This car gets 45 miles to the gallon. That is what I got on the trip, average, from here to Arizona and from Arizona back. 45 miles to the gallon. Okay? Out of a stock 92 Honda Civic. 98%. 88% stock. Okay? So, this would make more sense if I were actually on the Asus camera, because I can see that it's actually a better image than this one is. This one is, thank you Logitech, for, there we go, and oh, back it goes again. Whatever. Maybe what I could do. Do that. But then you can't see all my hand, well, I guess you can sort of see my hand gestures. You can't see these though. Doesn't matter. Anyway, if I had cut out 2 fuel stops from that trip, if I had made the trip to Arizona to Utah in one shot, or stopping once for fuel. I would have increased my average fuel economy by 3 miles a gallon. It would have been 48 miles to the gallon average. I don't have the math to prove it because I just did it quick in calculator and then I closed it. Didn't store it. But stopping and starting, with weight especially, because when I went there I had whole back end of this car was because I had so much shit in it. But I had a bunch of weight in here, more so than I would have with the additional fuel in the larger fuel tank. The increase in weight is very, very, very much offset by the fuel economy loss of the weight is offset by the fuel economy gain of not having to stop all the time to put fuel in the damn thing. I'm crazy. Okay, so what we need to do now, I need to pull the Civic in. I want to pull the wheel horse out first. So, wheel horse making noise, loud, loud. Assuming it starts. Dokily. I also need to paint the Hi French. Hi audio wrench. For which I have parking paint. Yes. Oh! You know what else today is? Today is I can put my freaking contacts back in today. You can definitely see that hanging off the back end. Sweet. Alright. Now we need to open everything up. Okay. Nice. Thank you. I'm going to bring you guys over to the driver's side so we can look in La Frente of El Caro. Telling you, man, freaking tripod. Apologies for the motion sickness. Tripod is infuriating. Figure out why the legs don't go in anymore. Like that. Then I gotta get the mic over there. Okay, so stand by for a moment. We are going to put up that guy. I'm going to mute the mic so I can unplug it without blasting you guys. I'll get the cable sorted and set, and we'll start making the thing. So I shall return audibly in just a moment. Okay, I believe that should be okay. Anybody in chat want to let me know how the mic sounds? Because every time I plug this freaking thing into, well, every time Windows gets a microphone plugged or unplugged, it freaks the f out. So the VU meter appears to be functioning as desired, but I can never tell because I don't headphones, and what I guess I should do is I should get a wireless IEM driver for a single IEM and listen to my own streams live while I'm doing stuff. Also, ooh, I just had an idea. So, wireless cameras around the shop when I get to Michigan. In a few months, we'll start buying this equipment. I want to have multiple cameras around the shop. I want to have StreamerBot set up for voice command so that I can change the scene in the camera without interacting with the machine at all other than voice commands. And then, alright, so wireless cameras have the mics enabled but not outputting to stream unless I need them to, which will probably just be one portable camera that would have mic capability. The rest of them, they have built-in mics, but the rest of them would be silent in OBS. Have a wireless transceiver for audio that is a lapel mic and audio out. So I can have my stream open in the background, very, very low, and I can hear myself. Have TTS spot set up and routed to the headset so that I can interact with chat via TTS. And then yeah, that could work. I'm gonna write all this shit. I'm gonna forget this shit. Write all this down. Somebody here in a little bit remind me get in Discord and put all this crap in there. Because for certain 100% I will forget if left to my own devices. Here we are. You want a tape measure? In here. Put mic in car, kind of like here-ish, and then I'm going to measure some things. What I'm going to do here, I can show you guys real quick. That's a problem. I didn't realize it was going to be that flimsy until I started driving, and by then it was too late. So, yeah, we need to fix that. Luckily, there is, right here, a bolt hole that the dash used to be mounted to. We want to mount this kind of as high as we can get it, reasonably. So 31 centimeters. The 31 centimeters minus a tab, 1/8 inch-ish. Let's buy some steel. Okay, so this is why I want multiple cameras, because I can set one up in the car, set one up. Hello? Microphone. Do your thing. Jesus, thank you. No idea how long that was screwed up. Apologies. But got a little mark on there. We're gonna make some noise. It's gonna be loud. Hopefully my audio is still set up so I don't have to mute you guys. If it's too loud, let me know. Do as I say, not as I do. Do not ever, ever recut something thin like this the way that I just did. Unless you've got a goodly amount of experience doing so. It is very, 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 very dangerous. Or that. Do as I say, not as I do. You can get seriously, seriously hurt. Sure, they can fall. Absolutely. Thank you. Get the paint off of this guy real quick.